The game was another good exercise. Expectations were not met in terms of goal scoring. But in my opinion, expectations were met tactically. Ghanaians expected an avalanche of goals against Nicaragua. The chances were created. We fluffed almost all of them. Game I felt Kudus Mohammed as an individual could have recorded a hat-trick. Got glaring opportunities, begging chances, failed to score. A game the team created chances, but were unable to put the balls at the back of the net. Tactically, to every manager, if he goes into a game and is able to create chances and unable to score, they are satisfied that the chances were created, even if the balls were not put at the back of the net. Reason why Otto ADDO, after the game, will say that he will rate the game 7 out of 10, considering how we played. Of course, how the fan would watch the game is not how the coach will watch the game. The coach will go into the game with an objective which is different from that of the fan. The fan want to enjoy, want to have fun with what is going on the field of play, want to see players play and score goals. But the coach wants to see how the players will fare in a game of this nature. So for me, we saw Inaki Williams starting the game. We saw how he will play as an arrowhead in a 4-2-3-1 system. We saw how Kudus plays whenever he is played in a position as a playmaker. We saw Daniel Kofichre. Salisu on about 2 occasions could have also put the balls at the back of the net, but missed narrowly when he came from the back to support the attack in set-piece situations. I think there's a lot of lessons that have been learned from this particular game. We played against Brazil in a game that we considered 3. We played against Nicaragua in a game that they hardly created a chance. So what it means is that you had a back line that looked stable, even though it is against Nicaragua. But you had a front line that created chances and at least scored a goal. That is also positive for the upfront. You had a midfield of Kofichre and Baba Idrisu that played together, perhaps for the first time after our AFCON last game against Comoros. And so for me, Michael, I think that the coaches have seen, almost every player in a big game situation or in a situation where they have been given enough time to play, and then being informed about who to rely on or who makes it into the 70% that Otto ADDO spoke about after the game against Brazil has been clear to the coaches now. So, Michael, for my initial comments, I think that is a very good exercise. And then going forward, it's really allowed the coaches to see most of the players in a real game situation with enough time play. And then going forward, the coaches will be able to have opinions about everybody.
If we have watched the team, today is 28.
Yeah.
Today is 28.
Yes.
That means we have
52 days.
52 days to the World Cup.
That is 7
If
days.
the coach is not convinced about the team, should the time prevent him from a major revamp of this team? If he's not, if the team will be in camp for 1 year, but still we don't have the quality to excel at the tournament, and if we can put together a new team that will assure the quality, can go and perform, should the timing be a challenge to handing invitations to a good number of players if he is not convinced about the quality?
Michael, it should be.
The timing should be a
yes,
challenge.
I try to put myself in the shoes of Otto ADDO.
Okay.
Honesty, it's not easy. You play a first game against Brazil, you concede 3. You play a second game against Nicaragua with a different team, you score 1. You create chances, you don't score. After our show on Original this morning, I was having a convo with Nana. And then I asked, from the 2 games, if today, you, Michael, you are asked to mention your first 11 players for any game that comes up after these 2 games, you will certainly mention players from the game against Brazil and then the game against Nicaragua.
If you give me the chance, I think about 2 or 3 outsiders will make my first 11.
Beautiful.
Black Stars.
So you see that even though I don't support that wholesale addition, at least from this squad, we have an idea of who is likely to be a starter for the team, even before others come to join. Now, when I asked Nana, he mentioned a squad that I agreed with. Coach agreed, but we had only a difference of 1. And that was, Nana mentioned Jiku, Salisu, Amate as his back 3. Mentioned Jeffrey Schlopp and Tariq Lamptey as the wing backs. Then he played Pate and Kofichre as the pivots. Kudus in front of them in the central midfield role. Then the 2 up front, he played Inaki Williams.
No, he played Jordan.
Jordan and Andre. And I said that I would have played Andre and then Inaki Williams in that role. And coach also said he will play Jordan and Inaki. So that was the only place that we had disagreement. Regardless, it gives you an idea of what is likely to happen.
The collapse, so that at least we know that there are 1 or 2 local players in the team and it is not an entirely foreign-based players.
Well, I think it's a combination of all the reasons. But to be honest, in the last 10 years, I think that coaches have called players from the local league just to, lower the reactions of Ghanaians, especially from the local league or the local players' perspective, to be honest. The only coach we've had who invited local players to the national team and gave them the chance to play, maybe from 2006 coming, we will say it is Ratomir Dukovic. Going to the World Cup, a very big stage, he had players like Habib Mohammed, he had players like Sheila Ilyasu. Issa Ahmed was part of that team, right? Yeah. But he was bold enough to give these players the opportunity to play, even at the World Cup.
Issa Ahmed did not
go to the World
the
Cup
cut for the
after
World Cup,
the
but he sent him to the AFCON.
Yes, after the AFCON
I think he and Bafojan and
Chipsa.
And is it Dankwe also? They were on standby. And
Chipsa.
Dankwe
went for the
Dankwe went to the World Cup. And Chipsa, I think
Chipsa, Bafojan, and then William Thiero.
Yeah,
William Thiero and Issa Ahmed.
Issa Ahmed. Lai Kinson was dropped in the last
Yes,
minute.
yes. Lai Kinson because of his card.
Suspension.
So then you rightly mentioned it. You mentioned another local player, Dankwe, who was also part of that. But he gave these players the opportunity to exhibit
where was
themselves.
Adukwe Papo at the time? I'm trying to...
And even at that
Adukwe
time...
Papo in 2006 was playing for Hapo Kafasaba.
And then we had...
Jojo was a local player.
Yeah.
Jojo was a local player. And then we had Haminu Dramani, who was also playing for Heart of Lions at that time. Right? I think he was playing for Heart of Lions at that time. Yes. So apart from him, you see that Kwesi Appiah gives opportunity to a lot of local players, invite them to the national team, but they won't play. We've seen that. I recall the last time Kwesi was in charge, when he was doing a call-up.
Haminu Dramani was a foreign-based player at the time. He was in Turkey.
Oh, so he had left Lions.
Yes, he had left Lions.
So
he left. No, he was in Serbia. He left Heart of Lions in 2005 for Red Star Belgrade, now known as Krevna Zvezda.
Okay.
In 2005.
Regardless, it still paints the the idea of the submission that I want to make. Now, if you look at all the coaches after Ratomir Dukovic, they come, they will invite the local players. Perhaps they wouldn't get opportunity. Maybe a local player who will get a Degat will be a goalkeeper. If you're a goalkeeper at that time, maybe Richard Ofori, you can get that opportunity of maybe being in the post and other stuff. But outfield has been very difficult. And Michael, I am not saying this maybe to blame the coaches. I have always raised the argument that if we are to put our local players on the same measuring scale with the players based abroad, they will always not get the opportunity to play. Let's just be straightforward with ourselves. You look at the conditions of service where they are and the conditions of service here. And if you want to put them on the same scale, maybe you will have to think that a player like a Free Ebani who is playing on the local league and has high performance should be judged by me as a better player than maybe a Fatao who plays on a bigger scale for Sporting Lisbon and is still unable to perform in the national team. You understand? Because a Free is comparatively playing at a place where the conditions are not as equal as Sporting Lisbon. But if his performance is top, then it means that he is a better player than Anilai Shawusu, who is not even playing regular for his club out there. You understand? Judging on that perspective, it will be okay. But if you are to judge it, and a Free Ebani from the local scene who is high, and a player who plays for Ajax who is also high, obviously you go for the Ajax player because the conditions are different. It's the reason I fought for the quota system, and I still fight for that. That locally.
Okay.
No, Michael, let me end my submission.
Please wrap
that
up
locally,
in 30 seconds.
The clubs should be able to have a meeting with the leadership of the FA, that is the ESCO, and then get a message to the head coach. Yes, we know you need results, but in the local league, there are players who are also performing well. So we should get a quota for those players in the local league,
okay,
so that the
this
representation
is
will be
something
there.
we can discuss on a broader perspective.